Great men died twice. Once they leave this world, and the second time when their life work disappears. Zdravo! Hello everyone, in this video I'll discuss one of the greatest novels written by a Nobel Prize winning author from Bosnia. On the surface, it's quite unassuming novel, but when you read it, it grips you. It's so powerful, and what's surprising is that I had never heard of this novel or the author until a few weeks ago. Bridges are the symbol of unity, connection, and free movement, but Yugoslavia, the setting of this novel, has seen so much division, bloodshed, and hatred in recent centuries. A bridge built by the Ottoman Turks 350 years ago tells the story of a small town in Bosnia, but it actually tells the story of the entire Balkan region and Europe as a whole, or humanity for that matter. How can a bridge tell stories? But most crucially, how can a Bosnian Serb tell the story of so many different ethnic and religious groups while keeping his own by his side? Born in Bosnia in 1892, then part of Yugoslavia, Ivo Andrić worked as Yugoslavia's ambassador in Germany just before World War II began. During the war, he returned to Belgrade to live in somewhat quiet life, but he managed to write his novels. He wrote in Serbian-Croat language using the Cyrillic alphabet. Some Bosnians and Croats accuse him to be too Serbian in his writings. It's obvious when reading his novel, you can see his sympathies are with the peasant Serbs throughout the novel as they are mistreated by occupying forces in the region. Today he's considered a Bosnian writer, but it's always tricky to assign nationality to someone posthumously. Ivo Andrić was a citizen of Yugoslavia and won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1961. He died in 1975. Yugoslavia is split into 6 countries in 1992. Bosnia as an independent country is only 30 years old, so quite young. The country is 50% Muslim Bosniaks, 30% Orthodox Serbs, and 15% Catholic Croats. It has 3 somewhat similar languages, Bosnian, Croatian, and Serbian, all branches of South Slavic language family. A country of 3 million people, it also has 3 presidents. I think all countries should have a president for every million people. The Bridge on the Drina is Andrić's most famous novel. It was published in 1945, just as the dust of Second World War was settling down. The first thing to know about the novel that it doesn't appear like a novel. It doesn't have any protagonists, which makes it difficult to characterize this book. Some parts read like history, other parts read like series of short stories about individuals and communities. But at the heart of the novel is a very important stone bridge, hence the title, and also the bridge seems to be the main character. To understand the novel, we have to go back into the history of Bosnia, first during the Ottoman Empire, later during the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and then Yugoslavia. Our story starts with the Ottoman Turks who had a practice of kidnapping young children and raising them as Muslims, and educating and training them to be part of an elite army called Janissaries. The novel concerns with one particular Serbian boy called Mehmed-pаше. He converts to Islam and grows up to become the highest ranked vizier of the Ottoman Empire. A man of great power and prestige, he never forgets his hometown of Visegrad. In the year 1566, he orders the construction of one of the most impressive bridges in the world in his hometown. After 11 years with plenty of setbacks, sabotages, bad working practices, finally the bridge is completed in 1577. Today the bridge is in Bosnia and still standing and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The novel details all the hopeful expectations and excitement of the people, troubles of the construction, the bad working condition for the peasants and the terrible execution of a young worker, and the interracial problems that go on around the bridge. Then halfway through the novel, the narrative shifts to the arrival of the Austro-Hungarians in the area that promises modernity. The bridge is the scene of new regime in charge. Now there are more people of mixed backgrounds roaming around in the area. Before there were Bosnians, Turks, Serbs, Jews and Romans, but now we also have Austrians, Hungarians, Poles and Czechs, and many more people in the mix. A century later, the Serbs start fighting for independence. This causes more tension in the region, during which the bridge is partly damaged and partly due to the neglect of the Austro-Hungarians. Then comes the railway, which further pushes the bridge to the background as it's logistically less important for transporting goods. Then people start moving abroad to the bigger cities like Vienna and Prague for education and work, and then when they return, they bring new customs, lifestyles, but most crucially the idea of independence and nationalism. The area around the bridge is constantly changing, but the bridge remains standing for 350 years simply because it was so well built. With any beautiful monuments in the world, many lives were perished in making them. In 1914, with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Bosnian Serb in Sarajevo, which is not far from the bridge, it sparks World War I, so the bridge again becomes an important transit as the fight between the Austro-Hungarians on the one hand and Serbian on the other hand, bringing actions close to the region again. The Serbs defeat the Ottoman Turks and then the Austro-Hungarians, and as a result, part of the bridge is destroyed. Here ends the novel on a rather pessimistic tone. It's heartbreaking to see such a beautiful monument, a silent witness, was destroyed. The bridge made of stone breaks your heart, such is the power of the novel. Andrić was writing in 1940s. He was unaware that the bridge would be still standing today and would become the scene of a horrific massacre of Muslims by the Serbs, who themselves suffered throughout history. Now I'll tell you some of the themes in the novel. The bridge on the Drina is like a window into a world I knew very little about, and as a result of reading it, I got to know a great deal about the history of the region and different ethnic and religious mix and how they negotiated with each other. I think reading this novel can give you a greater understanding of the context of the Balkan history and its complex ethno-religious dynamic. For me, one of the most beautiful scenes is when you see priests from different religions hang out together like pals, and at the time of disasters and flooding, they provide emotional support for the local people. Then there's the horrific execution of Radisov, a worker impaled from the bridge. Again, the suicides of Fatah, a girl refusing to marry a man she doesn't love by throwing herself from the parapet of the bridge. Those horror scenes are repeated on that bridge many centuries later. Even in 1990s, the bridge was the scene of a massacre of thousands of Muslims. The novel gives you an emotional history of the region seen by a solid stone bridge. It has so much depth that the history books will not offer. I thought the use of bridge as a main character was really clever. A bridge is more like a stage where the play takes place, where actors gather to tell stories. It's a witness to so many events throughout its 350-year history. It doesn't move, it doesn't walk, so it somehow forces all the events to come nearby. A bridge is a necessity. The bridge also symbolizes the region sandwiched between the Turks and the Austrians, between East and West, North and South. But I think the main reason Andrić chose the bridge to anchor his novel is that Yugoslavia was such a mixed bag of different peoples, languages and religions that only a stone bridge could connect them all. I think that decision was genius, and that made the novel timeless and artistically beautiful. A bridge is a paradox if you think about it. It connects people, but it also allows easy access for invaders to cross the rivers, nature's borders and fortifications. The author, by making the bridge the focus of this novel, he highlights its role in wars. Castles and fortresses defend people from invasion, but bridges welcome them. In fact, every time there's a major war, the bridge suddenly becomes important in the novel. During the time of peace, it remains more obscure. Another paradox is that bridges symbolize progress, but also an artifact from a deeper past. Here, the Ottoman period. In a sense, it's timeless. It's new and it's also old at the same time. Writing and storytelling. One of the most enduring aspects of this novel is its masterful writing. Despite the lack of clear plot or main characters, the writing keeps you hooked to read on. Written in Belgrade while under the German occupation, it's a reflection on his country's past, swept by the tides of empire shifting this way and that. But I should also point out that it's not focused on the elite or men of power. Instead, the novel tells the stories of ordinary people, the everyday people. It's like your grandma telling you stories and legends of the people in the village or of centuries past, the alcoholics, the gamblers, the idlers, stories of people having fun, their joys and laughter, legends of people falling in love, disappearing and then reappearing, tragedies, stories that are forgotten, stories that nobody can forget. In some way, it reminded me of 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The bridge on the Drina condenses 350 years of solitude and many generations into a single volume. The passage of time evokes a great sadness to see people come and go, yet the bridge stays on to witness them all. Just like Ursula, the grandma in Gabriel Garcia's novel. A bridge is like a perspective on how short human life is. Yet despite our short lives, we tear each other apart from time to time. Next time you feel angry, go and watch a bridge. To give you some examples of the beauty of Andrić's writing, I'll read a few short passages. Quote, "Here, where the Drina flows with the whole force of its green and foaming waters from the apparently closed mass of the dark, steep mountains, stands a great clean-cut stone bridge. with 11 wide sweeping arches. From this bridge spreads fan-like the whole rolling valley with the little oriental town of Visegrad and all its surroundings, with hamlets nestling in the folds of the hills covered with meadows, pastures, and plum orchards, and crisscrossed with walls and fences and dotted with shaws and occasional clumps of evergreens. Looked at from a distance through the broad arches of the wide bridge, it seems as if one can see not only the green Drina, all that fertile and cultivated countryside, and the southern sky above. Here's another passage. But the bridge stood still, the same as it had always been, with the eternal youth of a perfect conception, one of the great and good works of man, which do not know what it means to change and grow old, and which, or so it seemed, do not share the fate of the transient things in the world. Here's another one. Every human generation has its own illusions with regard to civilization. Some believe they are taking part in the upsurge, others that they are witnessing its extinction. In fact, it always both flames up and smolders and is extinguished, according to the place and the angle of view. And finally, there are three things which cannot be hidden, says the Osmanlis. These are love, a cough, and poverty. Final words. The novel's main plot is that a bridge that never moves can tell amazing stories. That is the plot. But those on the bridge move. You don't read it for the plot, you read it for its beauty, its short stories of its people. One criticism that is leveled against the book is that it doesn't mention Bosniak Muslims, instead refer to all Muslims as Turks. Some Bosnians and Croats criticize him for being too Serb-centric in his writings. The novel, however, doesn't caricature any particular people. There are good and bad Turks, and the same about all other nationalities. From what I hear, the book has been hijacked by some Serb nationalists, for it depicts the harsh lives of the poor Serbs under the foreign occupations to justify their acts of revenge, so to speak. I don't think Andrić had foreseen it, but rather he wanted to highlight history from the perspective of those people whose voices were not heard. It's a gem of a novel, and unfortunately very few people have heard of it in the Anglophone world. I had no idea who Andrić was until a few weeks ago, but while reading the novel I fell in love with his writing. I loved how the novel moved between individual and group, between small and big, between mundane and epic, between ordinary and extraordinary, between individuals of no power and those with power, between joys and tragedies, between time and place. It's a novel that bridges them all. No wonder it's about a bridge, but the novel is a bridge itself, between the past generations and the present generations. Reading it made me visit the bridge in town. Unsurprisingly, the bridge has become a tourist attraction among readers of this novel. I read the translation by Loved Edwards. The translation is really beautifully done. Some of the local words from many different languages like Turkish, Serbian, Persian, and Arabic. It was quite interesting to see so many different languages were spoken in the area, or certain words had traveled in the region. Before I forget, another great Bosnian novel is Death and the Dervish by Mehmed-pаше Selimović. That is somewhat similar to Kafka's novel The Trial, about one man's futile fight against authorities, set in 18th century Sarajevo under the Ottoman rule. But it also has elements of Dostoevsky, especially Crime and Punishment, as well as notes from the underground, as the novel somewhat ironically argues that to succeed under a repressive regime one has to deceive others. Honesty is not the best policy, so to speak. The very idea of social success hides many deceptions. In Death and the Dervish, the protagonist starts to fight for justice for his brother at the beginning, but it goes nowhere, so he instead changes tactic and becomes part of the system and succeeds in becoming an official. In the same vein as Faust, that you sell your soul in order to succeed in this world. My suggestion is to read The Bridge on the Drina first, as it's shorter and faster and the writing is more beautiful. And if you want to read more Bosnian, then Death and the Dervish is a great novel to deepen your knowledge of Bosnian literature and people. Thank you for watching.